Trees are important for finding morels, and I think most of us would agree that's something that we would like to do. Now look, I need to come clean here. There are not a whole lot of morels in my area, so I don't always find a bunch. But with that, in all my research on morel hunting, tree association comes up consistently. And this tree that I'm going to talk about is always on the list. Perhaps it is the key that you are missing to finding more morels. So you have two choices. You can either keep walking through the woods, fingers crossed that you'll trip on a morel, or you can take matters into your own hands and stick with me to learn how to identify Tulip Poplar, which grows in eastern North America. We're going to go over the common patterns that distinguish this tree, and at the end, I'm going to show you a shortcut to spot it right away, even at a far distance. The first detail we'll learn is actually how to recognize the buds. Many of us start scouting for morels early in the season, before trees have fully leafed out yet, so this will help us ID the tree even in the winter. The twigs and buds of Tulip Poplar are gray to brown, and the terminal bud or end bud is quite prominent. I've heard the shape described as duck-billed, and I would agree. There are two sides that make up the bud scales, and you can cleanly cut through them to show two individual parts. Along the twigs, you'll see round, lighter colored circles. These are actually leaf scars left behind from last year's leaves. Within the round leaf scars are tiny dots that are bundle scars from where the veins of the leaf connected into the twig. Tulip Poplar typically has greater than 4 bundle scars per leaf scar. And while we're looking at the leaf scars, I will also mention that Tulip Poplar has stipule scars, which appear as a light colored ring that encircles the twig at the top of each leaf scar. An often overlooked detail of twigs is their pith, and that would be a big mistake because Tulip Poplars is quite distinctive. Cut a lateral cross section of the twig to reveal what we call a diaphragmed pith. This would be a pith that is spongy with chambers that divide them. When you're cutting, you may also notice a Christmassy aroma, which is actually an important characteristic of this tree. By the way, if you are scouting for morel trees by their buds, we put this photographic guide together for you that you can use as a great reference. Let's also take a look at the Tulip Poplar's leaves for when it gets later into the season. Tulip Poplar has very distinctive four-lobed, hairless leaves that are symmetric along the stem. Sometimes I think of them as looking like tiny dinosaur footprints. Honestly, I cannot think of anything that looks quite like them. You should be able to identify Tulip Poplar by its buds and its leaves, but what about for scouting? We don't want to have to check each tree by the bud or the leaf one by one. There must be a faster way to cover more ground. Here's a trick that is incredibly helpful. In the springtime, Tulip Poplar produces these really pretty flowers that carpet the forest floor when they fall, but many of them don't fall and are held onto by the tree until the following season. So you can look for these little seed wings on the ground, but it is much easier to see them in the canopy of the tree among the branches. I can always spot them immediately, even from far away. All right, to round out our study, let's learn about the tree shape and bark. First off, Tulip Poplar is one of the straightest growing trees in the woods. I mean, just look at it. It's uniform from the base all the way to the top. And notice how tall the tree is? Tulip Poplar can grow to be very tall, up to around 160 feet. That's 50 meters for my friends outside of the US. The tallest tree in eastern North America is, in fact, a Tulip Poplar. The bark of a mature tree is made up of vertical, intersecting ridges that are mostly uninterrupted. That is, there are not many breaks in between them. One detail that always stands out to me is that the furrows between the ridges are lighter in shade than the ridges themselves. Of course, sometimes people could mistake ash bark for Tulip Poplar bark. So if you don't want to make that error, then you have to watch this video right here. I really think that you're going to like it. And also, ash trees are associated with morels as well. I'll see you there.